You're tuned into an interview entry of Getting Stuck the Way We Do. I'm Jared E. Before Jerry Billups and I ever even met, his story had already found and touched me. Last year, Jerry authored and published his own book, The Desk. It was through this book that I quickly realized what Jerry had to offer to this project. But even outside of that, I realized that it was important to me to get a chance to speak with Jerry. Jerry pushed himself greatly in the writing of The Desk. His career is that of a juvenile detention alternative initiative coordinator, or in other words, he plays a role in the juvenile justice system finding alternatives to detention. His book, The Desk, is a short and deeply reflective piece, talking about all of his experiences through life and growing up that have shaped him into the professional and man he is today. Thank you for joining us.
Today, I'm joined by Jerry Billups. He works within the juvenile court system, finding alternatives to detention for young people who are at a crossroads. Last year, Jerry authored his own book about crossroads throughout his life. Thanks for joining me, Jerry.
Jared, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking this time to check out my book and to speak to me.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic read. I tore it up in a day.
That was an important factor. I wrote the book with um, people who traditionally are not book readers in mind. So making it short and to the point was really important.
That's pretty funny you say that. My dad is not a big reader, and when I finished the book, that was one of the things I emphasized to him, like, I'm not the fastest reader, and I killed it in an afternoon.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the book is titled The Desk.
Yeah.
Describe that desk for me.
Yeah, so it's a old wood desk. I would describe it as a probably a 70s era wood desk with brass pulls on it. A lot of history was in that desk as I went through some of the drawers when I first got it, some of the papers I had to turn in to the proper
Mm.
people. But it's a desk that had been stored away in a room to be forgotten about, and just by happenstance, I ended up with it. And the story goes
Mhm.
on from there. So
We
yeah.
we won't spoil it for those who end up reading The Desk in the aftermath of this interview. So aside from The Desk itself, what inspired you to write the book?
You know, thanks to my mother, my technically my stepmother, but I just always refer to her as my mother. She raised me, Katrina.
Mhm.
God bless her soul. She was a person that always documented things, family events, birthdays, whatever the case was, through the 80s and 90s. She would always have the pictures. She always had a camera. And so she kind of taught me, just through her example to document our history. So, although I was a math major and I was never a person that was inclined to write
Mhm.
a whole lot, I did consistently document things that's going on around me, whether it's through pictures or video or writing. Over the years, I would write short, just, maybe one page about
Mm.
something that was important to me and just kind of store it away. But ultimately through a bunch of circumstances, uh, my brother, my comrade, Andre Russell, kind of put it on me to write a book. And I'm like, man, why would you say that? Because now I got to do it. That's really what led to it ultimately.
Mm. So did some of these pages that you wrote over the years make it into the final piece, or was the book itself constructed start to finish?
So yes, to answer your question, are a couple stories that um did make it into the book
Mm.
that were very, very intentional in that way. There was another story that did not make it into the book out of respect for people whose
Mm.
story it was. It was not my story. Um, so it was cool in that way. I think having those old stories stored away though helped give me the confidence
Mm,
to know that I could exercise that muscle and complete the task of writing a full book. Um, so even though they didn't necessarily make it into the book, though those stories did help me.
They played a role in your confidence in actually being able to write the book.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
absolutely, for sure. I don't know that I would have had the bandwidth to go through with the what seems to be a daunting task of
mm,
writing an entire book without that prior experience. Yeah.
mm. The desk has the subtitle of A Guidebook to Own Your Pain. What pushed you towards owning your pain when most people would run away from it?
I in the moments I didn't realize it. When Andre Russell suggested or demanded that I write the book, um, I was not even thinking about it in that way. I did not even really know what I would write about.
Mhm.
Just knew that it was a story there to be shared. And so I kind of started to think about, my life and how things meandered and just realizing like, man, it was some crazy stuff going on. And then, how things will work itself out. So the guidebook to own your pain, that came like maybe 3 weeks after the book was published. I mean
Oh.
not I mean 3 weeks before it was
Oh,
published
okay. Yeah, yeah,
before it
yeah,
published. Because I didn't know. And
yeah.
after I read it through a couple of times, I'm like, man, this is what this is. This is like a guidebook to that. And so that's where that came from. But I really had to think about it. So in a moment and through my life, I wasn't really viewing my life in that way. It just came out in the book that way.
You weren't writing it with the intention of writing to own your pain. It was just after the fact, after the dust had settled from writing it and you reading through it again, you realized that you were owning your experiences by putting them down like this.
Exactly. And you know what else I realized, Jared? I realized that even through life, I was owning my situation.
Hmm,
Not consciously necessarily,
sure.
but my guidance, my leadership in my life at every different point was helping me to realize and teaching me um you can't let these life circumstances own you.
Hmm.
You got to make the best of it.
Outside of coming to the realization of a guidebook to own your pain as the subtitle, was there a moment in your life where you knew you had taken control of or owned some pain that you've previously had?
Yes, to answer the question, yes. Overcoming things was kind of always my lot in life.
Hmm.
My dad, that I write about in the book, my father, he, um, not the most educated man, not professionally savvy in that way, but really, really sharp when it comes to solving problems.
Hmm.
So growing up, I spent a lot of time with my father, one-on-one time with him, solving problems. You're right. We would find ourselves constantly in these, to me at 8, 9, 10 years old, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're gonna get out of this situation. This is crazy. And then somehow we would get through it. The
Hmm.
problem would be resolved. And that exercise as a very young kid probably helped me in that way,
Hmm.
um, to know that okay, problems are going to come. You're going to have to work through it. You're going to have to come up with a solution. But it helped me to realize that there is a solution to pretty much any problem. You just have to work through it. You have to have the right relationships. You have to, know who to call sometimes. You got to, whatever the case may be. But so kind of going through that process with my father really, and I didn't realize it in the moment, of course.
Sure.
But through all of those processes, it kind of helped me to realize that. And then as a young adult, you know, I'm a person that, sometimes people call on when they have challenges, and I'm, always trying to, help people. Um, but I would often hear from people and, their life situations from when they were 9 or 10 years old was still challenging them at 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, we gotta work through it. Not to put them down or demean them, but it's just like, yo, we gotta work through this. We
You
gotta,
need to learn to let go of that baggage.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
right. We need to exactly what you just said. And so that was also part of what helped me realize, like, man, some people don't have the skill set or the ability or whatever it is, but it's people walking around this world still with things from their childhood.
Mm.
And so that was part of it also.
So this kind of punches a hole in my next question, but I still feel like I should ask it. Have there been any periods in your life in which you felt stuck within yourself?
Hmm, that's a good question, Jared. I'm glad you asked that. Um, I would say often,
Hmm.
um, fairly often, still to this day.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a person that likes to challenge myself. My wife would talk about that in a different way than me, but I take on big challenges, sometimes probably more than my talent or ability can handle, and I have to try to figure it out. But um, some things requires a lot of thought to try
Mm,
to kind of process and work through mentally. Some family situations requires a lot of thought. I'm blessed to have 7 sisters,
mm,
and even trying to help them with their relationships and their situations sometimes becomes a lot for myself. So but I think it's a constant exercise still. I think that it's something that you try not to let beat you down in any given moment, and just know that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. You just got to keep digging to get.
mm.
And so just knowing that, I think again that exercise from being with my father for my whole childhood just kind of reinforces to me that yeah, there's always going to be some challenges. There's some days going to beat you down. I mean, you know, there's a situation I write about in the book, Jared, that
Mhm.
I'm not going to give it up or nothing, but it was definitely a situation in my life as a fully grown man that I had to do deep reflection on.
Mm.
A situation that many people around me just would brush off. But it was deeply impactful for me. Um, you know, uh, uh, so yeah, I would just say that. Yeah, I don't think it ever ends, at least not for me. I'm gonna keep finding myself in these situations somehow.
But what I'm hearing though is even though there might be a period of time, let's just say a day where you feel stuck with yourself or a problem, it's this resolve that you've had or your father helped foster in you to always know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I some people at work say that I'm just this eternal optimist. And it's not because I'm not a realist. It's because I've just had the training. I
Right.
know that we can get through this. I know that we can. I might not know exactly how we're gonna get through it in the moment, but I know that there is a way to get through this. And I know that I got the energy and I'm gonna give it everything I got every day until we figure it out. So I do have that optimist,
Mm,
feeling about any situation. It's just about being willing to put the work in, lean on the right people,
mm.
build those relationships, and we could get through it. But yeah, I'm known as the optimist. They always say I always got a good outlook on things. I wake up with a smile on my face every day, to go and
That,
do what I do.
that smile is radiant, I must say. Uh, how can individuals turn their painful traumas into experiences that can empower them?
For me, and of course everybody's a little different, but for me,
Right.
um, it comes from helping other people through the same thing. It's
Mm,
knowing that, okay, I went through this similar situation, and now I can help you get through it because of what
mm,
I learned from going through it myself, because of the advice or the guidance that I received from my elders or my peers. Now I can help somebody else with it. And so, not that you want to see someone go through those same struggles. Of course, you would love if, nobody else went through it. But seeing people go through it, and knowing that, okay, now I'm going to help you get through it, or I can help you get through it. To me, that's what's so good about it. Not that it's good to go through these bad situations, but it's good to be able to use it to help people
mm.
in the end.
So it's like using the knowledge of your own experiences to then be able to help people through theirs. I mean, that explains perfectly why you've ended up in the juvenile court system.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And my the work that I do is pretty unique.
mhm.
It's a role that most people don't really know about. Um, but it could be a challenging role, because of the sometimes what people think of teenagers. They
Yeah,
think that, if they break a rule, they need to go to jail. That's the only way they're going to learn. And my job is to kind of help dispel that, to help let people know that every kid don't need to go to jail to get on the right track.
yeah.
And we can help kids. So, going and not just in the system, but even in the community, just in the greater community, period. Just dispelling that myth that kids need to go to jail is a job that not everyone is cut out to do, but I'm glad that I was chosen to do it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, as I was doing my research to prepare for this interview, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard of, and for the interview, this is Jerry's title. He is a juvenile detention alternative initiative coordinator.
That's a long
That's
title.
a long title.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess just share what does that look like a little bit?
Yeah, so that's man, it's an involved job. I would just say that initially.
For sure.
But it's a position where the position or the initiative was created, founded in the 90s,
Mhm.
when the whole super predator and the crack era was really going, when particularly black boys were being put in jail and detention centers for just about anything for just about any amount of time. That practice proved to be very ineffective. It was costly. It ruined young people's lives. It ruined families' lives. It disrupted entire communities. In communities all across the country. So the Annie E. Casey Foundation founded this initiative with that in mind to help reduce the reliance on secure detention. Um, of course, that was 30 plus years ago. Here today, we continue the work. Of course, we have set guidelines within our jurisdiction and really across the state of Ohio I can speak to. to make sure that we're not using secure detention for things that is not necessary.
Mhm.
We really try to make sure we're reserving secure detention for situations that impact community safety. And things that are really serious to the community. That's what we need to use it for. We don't necessarily need to put some kid in jail because they stole a t-shirt out the mall. We can address that in other ways in their community, within their family, to help deal with that issue, for sure. But putting that kid in jail for weeks or months at a time is not something that we need to protect our community from. So that's kind of the whole thing about it. On any given day, I'm facilitating meetings, committees, and all geared towards bringing a community voice into the work that we do, help allowing the community to guide some of the policy decisions and the way that we do certain things, and just trying to be creative with the times. Coming to the table to address new issues. We're dealing with issues that wasn't around in the 90s. So we just making sure that we're adjusting when we need to. And really communicating across all departments within the system, within our community and county. Letting the left hand know what the right hand is doing and vice versa, on a daily basis. So, in a lot of ways, I'm just a communicator, and asking. I do a good job of asking other people to do the work,
Mm.
that I don't do anymore.
But it's the existence of your position alone that I find inspiring. Like, what a important piece of the system to have laser focus on. Because you're absolutely right. Teenagers shouldn't be locked up if they steal a shirt, and that's all that they did.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how does writing about your own pain through the desk help you approach the young people carrying their pain?
Whew, that's a man. It's well, number one, it helps. Um, Young people are constantly interested in who you are. When
Meaning the person sitting across from them?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I facilitate a resident advisory committee in our detention center on Wednesday. So just yesterday, I was with a group of 8 young people, who are in our detention center for, well, they're there,
Hmm.
and some of them I met for the first time yesterday, and the main thing that they're constantly interested in is, who are you? Do you
Mm.
have kids? Do you have teenage kids? Where did you grow up? They want to know if you can relate to them, if you can
Mm.
really understand who they are and what they have gone through and what their life is like. And so I think for me, writing the stories has helped me to remember, right?
Mm.
Sometimes it can be easy to forget that, um you I didn't want to walk a half mile to school, because of all these different reasons that were going on in my community. And as a 43-year-old man, I could easily forget being 13 years old and not wanting to walk to school, for all these different reasons. But writing these stories, and not just that one, but some
Of
of the other
course.
ones too, it helps me to remember, like, oh yeah, I do remember feeling that
Mm.
way as a kid. But I think it was the exercise of writing it and really having to take the time to revisit my younger years and process it and ask people questions, about certain things, asking my older sisters, what was going on with this situation, and then they give me some clarity that I forgot about, and I'm like, oh, that's what
Mm.
was happening.
Oh, that's
Okay.
what went down. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because they older than me. But so, I think that remembering for myself and then grounding myself in, as much as I can in what it was like to be a teenager, and understanding that. And then I think also, uh, for me, what's been really, really important is advising or suggesting to the young people, write about how you're feeling right now,
Mm,
write about this moment right now, write about your situation right now. And ask one of these staff people to take a picture of it and send it to your email. And so that you will have it forever. You will have
mm,
it in your email for 20 years from now. And then instead of having to remember how you feeling right now, you'll be able to go back to what you wrote right now in the moment. So and then hopefully that would translate into them helping somebody else 20 years from now.
it's very I'm kind of stunned with the fact that you bring up writing specifically. A big backbone of this graduate project that I've been doing has been starting and keeping a daily journal, both for myself to reflect on, but also to help me um, atone with the current moment, stay in with the current moment. So just the fact that, you know, across generations, across years, physical situations like writing can be this incredibly mind-altering thing in a sense.
Yeah, Jared, I listened to this podcast. I can't even remember what podcast it was, but I listen to all these podcasts. And the guy, he talked about, he called it daily pages. And he said, every day write 2 pages every morning. Just write 2 pages, whatever on your mind.
Hmm.
Just write 2 pages about it every morning. And I've started to do that. It's probably been 2.5 months.
Mhm.
And it really does, for me, it has helped consistently like jumpstart my mind in the morning,
Mm,
to really hit the ground running, but also to reflect on the day before, to like
mm.
reflect on like, okay, what happened yesterday? And then, so and I'm not a writer.
Yeah, you started this with that.
Yeah, I went to school to study math. I did not write papers in college. I never. I wrote no papers. I took math classes. So it's a new experience for me for sure.
Hmm. I like that though, but in one of my other interviews that I did 2, 3 weeks ago at this point, something I took away from that was my interviewee had a very personally rigorous morning routine.
Mm,
And something that he and I discussed was even if you just take one thing from his literal 90-minute routine, and adapt that to yourself, that's a way to begin um, discipline. It's a way to feel more in tune with yourself. So what I took from that was um, once I'm out of bed, use the restroom first thing in the morning, the very next thing that I do is I go and write 3 things that I'm thankful for.
yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
That's a good practice for sure.
Hmm. So going back with the juveniles you work with, you speak with, what's something you think is important that a young person needs to hear when they're stuck?
I think that they need to hear, if it's not any particular words,
Hmm.
is to hear that you're loved, somebody care about you, somebody love you, it's gonna be okay. I think that so often, um in spaces in our community, not just in juvenile justice, but sometimes in school, in the community, just period, kids just hear so much negativity, and they, we hear that the way to teach them a lesson, you got to punish them. You got to punish them harder if they don't get it. But really, in reality, man, I've found that you get so much further with young people when you love them, when you show them that you care about them, when you give them that positive energy, that positive reinforcement. And then you can push them a little bit too. I'm not against or opposed to pushing somebody for sure. But if you're pushing them without love,
Hmm.
you probably not going to get far with them. But if you show them that, you could come to me when you're afraid, you could come to me when you're unsure. You can reach out to me, and I'll be there to just listen to you. If that's all you need is somebody to listen to you, I'll just listen to you. But I think that above and beyond everything else, I think that it's always really important for young people to have someone that they know that, okay, I can call on this person and just get positivity,
Mm.
love. Even if I did something messed up, because sometimes kids do some things they shouldn't do. But I don't think we're in a world where we could throw people away. Um,
Mm.
so I think that love is important.
I know I posed the question as specifically aimed towards young people, but I think that's something that everyone needs to hear, be aware of, that even if it's just the love of the Mother Earth itself,
Yeah.
somebody loves you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. And Earth Day was yesterday.
Yup, yeah, right. If only
Yeah.
this could have been yesterday. So you've already mentioned him, but the desk's foreword was written by Andre Russell, someone who's been a part of your life since your college days.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for finding that kind of person that sticks with you through practically anything?
Yeah, man, that's a good question too. I really have been blessed through man, I don't know why I deserve it, but I've been blessed through life to have some tremendous friends.
Hmm.
Most of my friends, I've been knowing them since I was in fourth and fifth grade. And they've just stuck beside me and helped guide me through all these years. Even the ones I'm older than, I lean on my friends for so much. So I would say surround yourself with good people first.
Hmm.
That's kind of the prerequisite. You don't want to develop that bond with somebody who's, not on the up and up. But I would say be genuine, be trustworthy, be yourself. But be genuine and be trustworthy, be respectful, be there when they call. Everyone goes through challenges. Nobody's perfect. Understand that your friends are going to make mistakes and sometimes do things that they shouldn't do, but support them, help guide them through it. And then when you need that shoulder to lean on, when you need to call that person, so you have somebody over there on the phone to answer. That was one of those many things that my father taught me was, relationships get you way further than money, way further than anything else. If you could pick up the phone and call somebody and say, "Hey, I'm on Route 2 between Cleveland and Sandusky right now, and my car cut off, and it's 1:30 in the morning, and I don't know what to do." If you got somebody that you could call and get out their bed and drive 35 miles to come and get you with no problem, that's better than any amount of money. That's a true friend. So keeping those relationships strong, like I said, being there, being trustworthy, honest, and genuine, is so important. I don't know where I would be without my friends.
It almost sounds like what you just described was the golden rule. For those of you who may be unfortunate enough to have never heard the golden rule, it's do unto others as you want others to do to you.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, it's so important. I think people lose that sometimes. I think that sometimes people have one of my favorite book is it's called The Four Pivots.
Mm.
And one of the four is just self-reflection, looking yourself in the mirror. And sometimes you gotta realize you ain't perfect either. And when you have friends that sometimes do something they shouldn't do or make a mistake, you got to be there for them because we all make mistakes. We all did something foolish, and we need support. So
So our comments on friendship very cleanly leads into my next question. Of the many, many topics that you talk about through the desk, one thing that um, kind of took hold of me personally was your emphasis on tight friendships and how they've helped shape and make who you are. Are there differences that you see in your experiences of establishing friendships to the way that you see youths that you work with establishing theirs?
Yeah, you know, in a lot of ways, um, I would say, well, to answer your question, I don't think there's really a difference.
Hmm.
I would say the thing that made the difference was that my father was sort of the father for everybody.
Hmm.
My father did not say, keep Ryan away from here, stay away from him. He's not a good kid. My father would say, nah, bring him on over here. Bring Terrence over here, Diaz, Brian, all of them. Bring them over here. Um, and then I could make sure that y'all learning and that y'all growing and developing. I could make sure that y'all, when you go and buy your first car, I could make sure you're getting a good car and that you know how to drive and you got your license and you got your insurance and doing the right thing. And so for me, the difference was my father bringing my friends in. And so often I have dealt with people who wants to try to separate this kid from this friend. And that bond a lot of time is unbreakable,
Hmm.
in those young friendship bonds, especially in that moment. And so trying to break it becomes a exercise in failure. And and ultimately the negative situation plays out because there was no adult guidance helping to guide those friendship bonds and what the friends were doing together.
Hmm. So
And so
instead of it being like, hey, we see that our kid is hanging out and getting close with a kid who has a bit of a neighborhood reputation, let's just say,
Mhm.
instead of trying to help redirect them as a unit, it's what you've seen is more the classic situation of like trying to break up a teenage couple that isn't good for each other, but just makes them closer.
Right. Exactly. Exactly, Jared. It's that, and I would also kind of share with adults. You know, I got across the street, my neighbor kids. They're my boys. They're young. They're rambunctious. They're probably outside right now with no shirt and shoes on, running around. And I do, I go out and I spend time with them and I talk to them and I teach them things. Um, just because I want them to grow and be healthy. But this is something that I realized from watching my father. You never know when one of them boys gonna be your son-in-law. It really could happen. And then, you would wish that you had poured into that kid in all these years. You would wish that you had talked to him and spent time with him because like you just said, you don't know who your daughter gonna fall in love with. And so, as an adult, pouring into the kids and not just viewing them as bad and things like that and trying to help them becomes important. But yeah, those friendship bonds is important. I think in a lot of ways you end up being friends with who you grow up around. Who's in your neighborhood, who's at your school, who's on your sports teams.
Mm.
It's generally who you develop friendships with. And if you're in the neighborhood that's, for me, infested with crack, and you probably gonna be friends with some kids that sell crack.
Mm.
And that's just the reality. So and I see it still to this day. Yeah.
I mean, on that thing of tight bonds, I mean, my best friend is, I've known him since fifth grade, and he was one of the first people I got tight with because in fifth grade I had switched schools.
Yeah.
Um, and he's still off in Michigan for college, so it's not like I see him nearly as much as we used to during our grade school days. But he and I still check in and talk with each other like we're still living in the same city.
Yeah. It's important. It sometimes can be hard to break. Of course, some naturally, separate, but yeah, those friendship bonds, man, it's so important. I dedicated a whole chapter in my book to
Hmm.
my friends. I could have
Hmm.
wrote a whole nother book
It felt
about
like it. It felt like it.
it. So it has been such an important part of my life for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
In sharing your life through the desk, what are some lessons you hope readers take away from your story?
Yeah, man, that's it. I appreciate that question. I really hope that number one, I hope people realize that your life has a purpose. And I hope that people are able to realize that they're here living for a reason. I can't tell people what their reason is. I don't know, but you here for a reason. And I believe and hope that I found mine and I'm living and walking in that path. But I hope that people realize that the things that you go through in life are helping you develop into who you need to be to accomplish what you need to accomplish while we're here on this earth. And I just hope that that comes across for anybody that reads the book. I share some stories that some of those stories I never shared with nobody, Jared.
Mhm.
I never even talked to my siblings about some of these stories until I actually wrote them. And it wasn't that it was being hidden, it just was we just didn't talk about it. So to write it was it was kind of crazy. Um, but I really do hope that I put myself out there for people to get that courage and strength within their own self to push through this life.
I mean, yeah, as I kind of remarked earlier, even if there's no one around, someone that says they love you, the Mother Earth loves you. And even if your purpose is just enjoying that peace, that's still a purpose.
Yep. You know, I'm a big time gardener
Mm,
also. I love my garden. I haven't really had a chance to get out there too much this year yet, but I try to impart on every young person I come across to love the earth and to understand how plants grow and how
mm,
food grow. And yesterday I was in a detention center with my group and the day before they had did a gardening program that we
mm,
have at the center, and I was talking to them about carrots. They didn't know how carrots grow, and one of the young people that was with us was saying, "Oh no, that it was worms in that dirt and ants," and I'm like, "Yo, that's all part of the earth. That's where all this food come from. The dirt, the worms." So it was good to talk to them about that, but to help them realize we are all connected to this earth. And you love the earth gonna love you. And that is an important relationship to have,
mm.
that I think too many people get disconnected from. But I could talk about that forever.
Oh, I think we could go about that for hours and hours, just you and I.
Yeah. I'm also on the Board of Education
Mhm.
here in the Cleveland School District. And, I was urged by community members to my neighbors right here on my street. Um, they thought that I cared about the district that much that I should be a part of the Board of Education. So I did it, and of course we are going through some major challenges right now
Mm.
within our district. But I bring that up because I'm working on my second book.
Oh,
Um,
really?
uh, Examining the school to prison pipeline.
Ooh.
Just having the perspective that probably not many people will ever have of working within our operations team in our juvenile court, and at the same time holding this position within the school district in the same place at the same time really gives the opportunity to examine things so much more intimately than most people would be able to, having access to knowledge bases that most people would never have access
Mm.
to. I figured that this is another one of those things. The universe put me in this position to tell this story, so now I have to tell it. Because I've found that a lot of the things that people believe drives this school to prison pipeline is, I would not say inaccurate, but there's a lot of missing pieces
Mm.
and nuance to that scenario that I think a lot of people miss. So I'm working on that book. It's going to take a little bit longer to complete. It's probably it's not going to be a few hour read. It's going to be much longer than that. It's going to be a bit longer. But I think that it'll be so important for adults to take in and realize the role that we all can play in this pipeline that leads young people to prison.
Mm. I appreciate you sharing that. I've been sitting here wondering, well, is he gonna write another one? Honestly.
Yeah,
Um, and that's such a cool topic. I mean, I've heard that school to prison pipeline, and I know vaguely about it, but I mean, I'm talking with a person who I couldn't think of a better person to speak on such a phenomenon.
yeah, yeah. And I think that a lot of it we're seeing right now, unfortunately, we're seeing a defunding of public school in our state of Ohio. I think that initially some of the stories in the media that were put out were one way, but I think that as reporters have gained more information, they're starting to realize that this is much bigger than any one school district. This
Mm.
is a consorted effort to defund public schools, in his state, and that plays a big part. But even also, our people every day in our community, we all play a part. When we ignore our young people and discard them and throw them away. We're all playing a role when we have a neighbor kid, in across the street playing basketball, and we don't go and shoot a little hoops with them every once in a while. All of that stuff counts. We all need that neighbor. Them kids might know me one day as the old guy that lived across the street and couldn't shoot, but he would come over and shoot with me anyway. So,
But it's the fact that they remember you.
yeah, is so that's what it is. And so, when we don't do that, I think that we're putting our own little rivet in that pipeline,
Mm.
realize it or not. But yeah, so examining that stuff, I can't wait to write it. It'll probably be at least a few years. But I think that it'll be one of my life's work for
I'll be
sure.
waiting for word of when it's available. I could promise you that.
You'll be the first to know.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Hey, I appreciate it, Jared. And any conversation in the future, feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jerry, for your openness through our interview as well as your book. I look forward to the next one. Jerry Billups is author of The Desk, a guidebook to own your pain, and works within the juvenile court system working to find alternatives to detention. If what you heard today resonated with you, his book is worth your time. Links to purchase your copy of The Desk can be found in the description below this video. I'm Jared E., and you've just learned more ways to get unstuck. Thank you for watching.